We're keeping an eye on, as we've been telling you, and both Ekta and Sonia are here in studio with us to listen in to those management conferences and sort of highlight some of the key takeaways. Sonia, since we're trying to fix the audio on the Maruti link, a quick review of the numbers. Oh well, sorry, I think we fixed it. Let's go back.
Really helped us because compared to the others, our diesel sales are much smaller as a percentage of total sales. Compared to others, it's not so small. 30% is not all that small, but compared to others, we are still small. So those factors helped us, and the rural market, which in many cases we had been told is not so good last year. The motorcycle market didn't do too well, the FMCG market didn't do well, but we went up in the share of the rural market from, I think, 32% to 35%? 35%. So we actually increased the share of rural sales in the total sales, which really meant that the growth rate of rural sales was faster than the growth of the non-rural sales. The percentage of increase of rural sales was 23%. So it meant that 23. It meant that the rural demand, even till last year, remained strong. How the rural sales will behave this year, difficult to predict because these unseasonal rains have not been very helpful. And the predictions of the monsoon are also not too optimistic. So we'll still see what happens. But I think the strategy which Mr. Kalsi is following of extending the reach of the sales and service to the larger number of villages each year, I think that is helping. And we still have quite a long way to go because I think we are covering 125,000 villages or something so far. And as you know, India has very many more villages to cover. So I think this is an area where we can continue to grow. Somebody had asked me some time back with these predictions of the monsoon and things, will you stop doing this? I said our policy is not based on one-year events or two-year events. We have a much longer-term view before us. And rural sales are a long-term proposition for us where we think a lot of sales will happen. So just because there might be a poor monsoon or has been a poor monsoon is not going to change our policy and our approach to developing the rural market. So we will continue. So that's as far as the market is concerned. The dividend, of course, it's the highest, of course, we have declared. It's making good on the dividend policy which we had announced, where we had said that dividend will be between 18 and 30% of the dividend of the profits made. And this year it's going to be just about 24.5%. So we have increased from last year was what, about 14%? 15%. 15% to 24.5%, a very substantial increase in the dividend payout despite a higher profit. So I hope this time at least the shareholders won't feel that we have not looked after them adequately. And what else? I think the rest we'll leave it for your questions. And Ms. Aikawa-san, you would like to add something? And we leave it to questions. I think that's better. Sure.
What's the target? Not in terms of reach, but a target for total sales. I mean, what percentage of that would you like to come from rural areas?
See, our target would be to enhance our reach. And as has been mentioned, we covered 125,000 villages in the year just concluded. And this year we plan to add another 25,000 villages. So these 125,000 villages would remain, this thing, under our, this thing, as a focus. Plus we'll add another, 25,000. So 150,000 villages will approach.
How the
monsoon may, as it's predicted that may be deficient. Do you think that this spurt, that 35% contribution to your sales, this could be impacted because of all this negative factors?
Yes, there is a concern, but at the same time, by enhancing the reach, we'll try to compensate for that.
Do you see it maintaining at that level, or it may come down?
No, it's difficult to predict, at this point of time, but our efforts will remain on towards enhancing the reach, which should give us good results. Last year we had 1,25,000 villages.
How many did you add? This is so far 125, right? So like 25,000 this year your target.
Yeah,
last year how many?
Yes, we added more than 25,000 villages last year also. We were at 1 lakh and then.
It's about the same figure each year, about 25,000 villages we're trying to do each year.
And what is the difference between petrol and diesel, Bhargava? Sales between petrol and diesel cars?
The ratio is at 70-30 roughly.
What was it last year?
There has been a difference of about 2% in favor of petrol in our overall portfolio.
Last year?
Yeah.
Not significant. Not significant.
Sir, I wanted to understand this whole debate about diesel vehicles, especially in NCR region and all, after this NGT order. Do you think that this is, are you seeing some kind of a pressure on sales of diesel cars because of this? Because, I keep on speaking to some of the people who are interested in buying diesel cars. And there's a kind of a little bit of a stare psychosis, one would say, or something like that. Have you seen some pressure on the ground as well, that people are not very eager to buy a diesel vehicle because of various concerns, and also the narrowing gap between petrol and diesel?
No, as I mentioned, in the year just concluded, we had a, 2% shift roughly in our portfolio. But as far as the growth is concerned at the, fuel level, we had a growth of about 2.8% in diesel also, and 15.1% in petrol.
But industry as a whole declined in diesel.
That's right.
The share of diesel, which was, it's not 60%.
Industry.
The share of diesel for the rest of the industry fell quite a few points. I think 6-7 points.
About 8%.
8% fall in
overall
for diesel.
But sir,
not because of this NGT.
this is a localized issue.
But generally because of the gap getting narrower.
But do you see any pressure because of this NGT issue that people are not that keen on buying diesel in these areas?
So far nothing.
People are, the demand remains.
Because in any case, it doesn't get within the purview of this order till it's 10 years old.
I know.
And hardly anybody in the NCR keeps cars for 10 years. Barring a few civil servants, I don't think anybody.
Some journalists.
People change cars.
Many journalists.
So you said that the rural growth outpaced the urban growth this year. So 23% was your rural growth. What was the growth in urban areas then?
Sorry? Urban growth is 11%.
11%. And how do you see this playing out for next year? Do you see the rural growth continuing to outpace urban growth?
Our overall target for growth is just about in double figures. Okay. 10%, 11%, something like that we are hoping to do.
Right.
And roughly, I would imagine if the rural thing doesn't do as well as last year, point you were making. Last year, the rural sales went up 23%. Supposing this year it's not 23%, it is something lower. The impact on that, on the overall sales, not so much still. Even if it falls from 23 to 15 or 14, it's not that much. So the urban sales have to be close to the figure for overall sales. So if we are selling 10-11%, the urban sales should be in the same ballpark. I mean, 0.5% this way, 1% this way, but nothing of constant.
So you have had very good performance in the FY15. Going forward, is it sustainable, or is there any concerns or positive negatives for this current financial year?
We don't predict profits and growth and margins.
General overall environment, sir.
Overall environment in some ways is very good. Fuel prices still remain low. Inflation still remains low. So those are good factors. The comparatively sluggish economy is not a good factor. We were hoping that at least in the second half of this year, the growth of the economy will become faster. That will help us, because sluggish economy is never good for our business. So, not too different from last year.
Sir, Sakshi Batra from Zee Business. Congratulations on the good set of numbers. Your bottom line has really improved. I wanted to ask you about the exports per se. The dollar index is really strengthening. So, as per that, do you see your exports being hit in some way?
We are hoping our exports will at least maintain this year's level, not come below that. This year was 121,000. 121,000 we did this year. So certainly, I think Ayuka-san will push the export people to get to at least that figure, possibly higher. No, Ayuka-san?
Yes, that's true. We are anytime to request pushing at our people to enhancing export is a different. We have to consider the different condition, because not only domestic, the export is dependent on some countries, the economic condition and some political situation, etc. We are taking care of mainly Africa and the Middle East area. Unfortunately, some countries not so stable condition. That's why depend on those kind of not business issue relating to political issue, economical issue, will be getting a negative impact. That is our only concern. Otherwise, we can achieve that increasing volume sales comparing last year.
So also in this quarter itself, have you seen any cross-currency movements positive impact, sir?
There has been a positive impact on the various currencies. So, policy overall has been. Yeah, can you hear me now? Okay. So the foreign exchange fluctuations that have happened during the quarter and during the year, they have been favorable because yen has depreciated, and also the fact that euro has also depreciated. So both are import currencies for us. So there has been a reasonable amount of forex impact that we see.
Thank you.
Interesting bit of information. This year, for the first time, we sold more than 100,000 cars in the non-European export market. Europe used to be the biggest market once upon a time, but we have been developing the other markets. And the fact that we've crossed the 100,000 mark in non-European markets is now some sort of a small milestone for us.
Sir, I have a question.
Which would be largest at the moment? Algeria?
It was Algeria.
Sir,
Algeria, Chile, Angola is doing pretty good.
Egypt or some African country, we have to developing a market.
Sir Amrit, I just have a question about first-time buyers. You said the percentage of first-time buyers have increased from 37% to 44%, but we haven't really seen any sort of surge in sales in the Alto segment or the Eon segment. So are we seeing that the first-time buyers are kind of giving the entry-level segment a miss and graduating to the next segment, or is it just is it there for the time being?
You see, first-time buyers, they are not only going in for just the entry-level cars, they are going in for higher-level cars also, like WagonR, Swift, Desire. So large percentage of them straightway goes to that category.
Then, sir,
Alto sales were higher this year.
Yes, sir.
How much?
Alto K10 we sold higher, 221. 221,000.
Both we had 221 and the K2 221, 268. And previous year was? The auto sales went up this year, definitely. I know.
Yes, but the kind of
exactly
surge
how
that-
much I'm not sure. Actually, retail sales.
Well, that's the Maruti management talking you through what the quarter's been like and what the year ahead looks like. Sonia, solid margin numbers this last quarter. And the outlook on rural sales sounds upbeat, you know, not half as downbeat as anybody else who sells in rural India is currently sounding. You know, interesting sort of insight into non-European Union exports. You know, what did you pick up in terms of key highlights that will help you assess FY16?
Well, you know, one is that this is the highest margins that the company has clocked in the last 5 years, so exceptional over there. The other is the fact that they are increasing their dealer net into rural India further. Sure. So they did say that 25,000 more villages will have dealers, and they did mention that the share of rural sales has gone up, which is interesting because, you know, we've seen rural demand slow down for other players like Hero MotoCorp in the two-wheeler space. But in four-wheelers, clearly they maintain their dominance, not just in urban India, but in rural India as well. Also, this first-time buyers rising to 44% versus 37% was known. But now they say that not just in the entry-level cars like Alto, etc., even in some of the higher-end cars like the Wagoner, the Swift, the Desire, you know, first-time buyers have risen. And that's very important because they are creating a demand for the automatic version of their new cars for consumers who couldn't afford it earlier. So they're creating a whole new category, which will, of course, help them in terms of higher volumes, etc. Finally, what they had mentioned in their presentation is the fact that they have seen lower sales promotion expenses and their other expenses to net sales have gone down. Now that's important, Menka, because last quarter the discounts that they were offering was the highest ever at 21,000 rupees a unit, and that's because they were using the demand push strategy. Sure. Now the discounts have come down because some of their newer models like the Ciaz and the Celerio offer no discounts at all, and that proportion has gone up, which is very good.
So that bodes well for margins in the next year, though of course margins will also rely on currency movements in a big way and raw material costs as well.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? I mean, the yen depreciation won't last forever.
Exactly.
At some point it will peter off. So what the other elements are more important than the depreciation of the yen, and in the other elements there are a whole host of positives, as I just alluded to.
Okay, fine. So our brokerage is saying that they might want to re-rate this stock and you know, sort of improve or hike price targets, so to speak. You know, given that it is definitely everybody's top pick in the auto sector, isn't it?
Oh yes, in fact we were speaking to the analyst from IIFL a while back, and he said that I won't be surprised if a lot of us, you know, re-rate the stock post the conference call at 4 o'clock. In any case, the stock is expensive. It's trading at 20 times forward, that is FY16 earnings. But despite that, the valuation seemed justified because one of all the, you know, the cost-cutting initiatives and the lower promotional expenses, the currency tailwinds, etc. And two is because they have a lot of new products that are coming up in different categories, so they're filling the product gap as well. They have a new SUV coming up, the S-Cross. They have another sedan that is coming up because of the success of the Ciaz. They've gotten more confidence in the higher end segment. So all of that will help them in terms of higher blended margins going forward.
All right, the stock is having a really good day today, up almost 3.5%. As you can see, that's the story with Maruti.